or so they were probably just scared shitless by your arrival. I'll bet they thought Judgment Day had come, and right on time, too.
Welcome to the channel, everybody. My name is S.T.A.L.K.E.R, and today I wanted to talk with you guys about Metro Exodus a little bit. I have not actually beaten the game yet, even though I've had it for a couple of days now. I've been really busy playing a lot of games like Jump Force, Metro, among other things. So getting through this game has been a little bit difficult for me between the work and doing all of that extra stuff. But the little bit I've played, where I would say I've probably put about 5 to 6 hours into the game on, I think it's hardcore difficulty, not the Ranger hardcore, but just the regular hardcore. I've had a blast with it so far. Honestly, if you guys know me, you know that I love the S.T.A.L.K.E.R series, and this really does feel like the AAA S.T.A.L.K.E.R game that we've been waiting a long time for. Now, that's not without some drawbacks, obviously. This game isn't S.T.A.L.K.E.R, and it is trying to appeal to a more general audience. So a lot of things in this game do feel kind of like a step back if you were expecting S.T.A.L.K.E.R, but also a step forward in a lot of other ways if you wanted this to be like S.T.A.L.K.E.R. It's kind of hard to explain, but I guess that's kind of what the point of this video is. Metro Exodus, of course, takes place right after Last Light, which I really appreciated. It just drops you right back into the action. And I have to say, this is a beautiful world that they drop you into between the various places that you go to visit. Honestly, even just the very beginning of the game, it just looks so good in the tunnels, the lighting's great, the particles and the snow and everything. It looks really, really good. And I honestly think this is one of those games that will be a benchmark game for PC games for a while, especially with the RTX features, which I sadly do not have an RTX card in which to test it with, but they seem pretty cool, even though the performance hit can be a little bit too much at times. In my personal opinion, I really do value the immersion and feeling like you're inside of the game world of a game that you're playing. I don't really see the objective markers as objective markers. I really try to immerse myself into it as much as possible, and that means sometimes taking weeks upon weeks to beat like an 8-hour game, just because I do smaller chunks, but maybe I'll just do a lot of exploring or things of that nature, and I think this game is really good for that, although it does have a few drawbacks. So in Metro Exodus, they will place you in these pseudo-open world sections, and I think these are definitely the coolest aspect of the game, and I think this is why I was so hyped for it initially, is just because if you remember in S.T.A.L.K.E.R, you had all of these pseudo-open world areas in that game as well. Now, in that game, they all connected to each other, whereas in this, I believe there's different, entirely new places that you go to. But in S.T.A.L.K.E.R, like I said, they were more like interconnected to each other, but they were still spaced between loading screens. Now, when you're in these pseudo-open world sections, you'll be running into monsters, and you'll be looting and looking for weapon upgrades, as well as completing objectives for missions, which can then net you more crafting materials, which, by the way, if you play on hardcore, which is what I would probably recommend you do on your first playthrough, to be honest, unless you think it's just a little bit too hard and you might want to scale it down to normal. I really do believe that the crafting system that they've implemented here elevates this game on a whole nother level than Last Light, just because at all times you're always having to be conscious about what you're using, when you're using it, and it almost turns into like a survival horror game. Now, I know you can technically go, well, they did that in Last Light and in the first Metro, but I feel the way that they've done it here is even more emphasized, especially since, you know, combat can be avoided in this game. Not always, but pretty much any engagement you get into, at least in the open world sections, there's a way around it, or there's a way to get through it that'll be less confrontational or use less resources. And it has a lot of emergent gameplay moments where things can happen out of the blue. You know, like you'll be attacked by a monster out of nowhere, or there was a monster that you could have easily avoided that you pissed off though, so then you have to waste a couple of your shotgun, you know, slugs on them. Things like that, and that I really like about this game. Those were all elements that made Stalker a great series to play, and it made the modding scene for that game so much more impressive because there's many features of the Stalker modding scene that have kind of made their way into Metro Exodus, and Metro even seems to borrow elements from like Far Cry 2 when it comes to just general survival and basics, like even your guns jam like in Far Cry 2, and I think stuff like that really, really makes you feel like you're a part of this world. So again, like I have said 30 times so far, I think Metro has nailed the atmosphere and the feeling of being kind of like a survival game, but it also has the single player elements that make a game fun as well. So it's not just emergent gameplay, it's not just go here and complete random objectives. There's definitely some good storytelling and some good scripting in this game. And even the voice acting is pretty great for the most part, although there are a few performances that feel a little bit like a miss. And I think you can actually go and turn the audio language to Russian. And I haven't tried this yet, but it would probably be even more immersive if you did that. So do let me know if that's a good thing to do. So I want to go ahead and list a few small, like minor complaints I've had so far. So one of them is Artyom can't jump or land very efficiently. This man breaks his fucking kneecaps every time he falls off of a 2-meter ledge. It's kind of embarrassing. Like, I'll be playing and fall off of a tiny fall, like maybe 5 to 6 feet, which isn't tiny per se if you landed awkwardly, but if you knew that you were about to jump and fall there, you would be fine. And I have died like 3 or 4 separate times to fall damage where I just did not expect it. Now, this could just be a result of playing on hardcore, which I'm pretty sure it is, but I feel like they could have tuned down that fall damage a little bit. But maybe they've programmed it this way so that you can't jump out of the map in certain places, maybe, but I'm not sure. I've also gotten a bug where my game speed increased significantly. Now, this was just totally random. I had left the photo mode, and on PC at least, then I started going into like a fast motion kind of thing where the game world and game time had sped up significantly. Now, it fixed itself after I reloaded a save, but that was a little bit strange. Also, sometimes it feels like the time for things to degrade in this game is almost a little bit too sped up. I like the added challenge, like, don't get me wrong, but with the amount of crafting materials that you need to bring your weapons and your gas mask back to full, repaired status, it's almost like not even worth it to repair certain things. Like, I would rather have my gun jam than waste the supplies I need to unjam it or to make it where it will not jam as much as it has been. So there's a lot of moments like that, at least in the early game. Again, that's not really much of a complaint, that's just something that I've run into on this difficulty. So, do I recommend that you play Metro Exodus right now? If you're a Stalker fan, absolutely. Absolutely. If you're a Metro fan, if you like the more linear style of the first 2 games, this will definitely be an adjustment, and I wouldn't expect to just breeze through this, especially if you want to play on hardcore or anything higher than that. I know I watched Jim Sterling's video, and he wasn't too pleased with this game, and, I can understand why some people might be a little bit put off by Metro Exodus at first, and I think it's definitely the kind of game that you need to spend a good chunk of time on to really get an opinion on. And like I said, I haven't played enough to really give you a full go buy it, but I do feel like as a stalker at heart, if you enjoyed those games and you need more of that in your life, then Metro Exodus is an easy recommendation from me, even though I have not completed the game. So please take my opinion here with some salt, a grain of it or 2 if you will. So what do you guys think about Metro Exodus? Have you played it? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Let me know why in the comments down below. If you haven't already, feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel here. We are a small bunch here on the FAR channel, but we're pretty nice. Most of us. Sometimes. Do all of those things that the other YouTubers tell you to do, please. It would be very much appreciated. I've also got a Twitter channel. Yeah, sure, why not? Yeah, I have a Twitter profile, I guess. Yeah, you can follow me on that if you want to hear cringy gaming opinions and hot takes. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.